Hi, my name is Jason from Easiaccess. We're going to do a short video on a very easy property, giving us a demonstration on how to measure up and take heights for a ramp and survey. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to measure up the property. This one's pretty easy. I'll grab my folder here. Because there's no borders, there's no sheds to consider, it doesn't really get any easier than this, but we didn't want to overcomplicate things. And you know, we're talking about moving sheds and moving greenhouses and difficult areas to access. We just wanted to get sort of the basics in place about using the laser level, considering like access for bins and access to different areas of the garden. So we thought we'd just keep it nice and simple for this first video. First thing we're going to do is we're going to measure up the property. Just a quick one. You could measure this, you could choose to measure this, but it's such a small nib and it doesn't matter in the scheme of this drawing. So I'm just going to class that as just straight through the outside of this wall, because I know that this wall is part of this property. Okay. So measurement at the edge of there, 800 mil. .4, 560. There's a little nib here. I am going to measure it because it's right next to where the platform is going to go, so it might get involved with whatever threshold plate we put on. So I'll just take a little measurement. I'm going to take it from here to here. It's about 90 mil. I'll write it down as 100 because it's better to have a slightly bigger size so that you know that the threshold extension plate's going to just get past there. Doorway. Always take the full width of the opening, of the reveal, which is 1060. The best way to measure for bay windows is not to measure just the glass, because the glass doesn't matter. This is the space that you have to work with around the ramp. This is where you've got to get clear from here to the face of this sill, so the window doesn't matter. So when I measure this, I'm going to measure that full thing and I'll just draw it as the entire size of that sill. So I'm measuring to here, which is 1040, and to here, which is 800. Right. Again, measure the full size of the bay window to 960. Just to finish off all the measurements, just to get the alignment of where that post is with where the actual front door is. We can take a measurement from here. It's a nice square property, this one. We can measure just the edge of this post, and we've got 4860 to there. I guess the important measurements on this property are distance to the boundary over here and distance to that wall. Just from experience, I know basically the ramp's probably just going to land over here, but it does have potential to go straight towards the driveway, or we could put a platform, a small section of ramp, another platform, and come down this outer line here. So there's three ways that you could potentially put in a ramp at this property. Okay, a little bit about the laser. We use this model here, but you can get DeWalt lasers, you can get Bosch lasers. We use this one. It has a substantial stand, which doesn't sound like it's important. You can get some pretty cheap tripods, but the problem is you want something that won't tip over in the wind, and this is pretty substantial. It's not heavy in a horrible way, but just has enough substance to not blow over easily in the wind. And believe you me, we've lost a few of these in the wind. And this head unit here is about £300 or £400. So for the sake of spending a little bit more on a tripod that doesn't blow over easily and losing a £400 laser off the top of it each time it does blow over, it's worth paying for a little bit more for this. So we set this up roughly around here because I can take heights over here, I can take heights at the boundary, and I can take heights over here as well for the ramp, because there's probably three options here that three routes we can take basically. There's a little level on this here. You switch this on from the top here. It puts out two beams. It puts out a vertical beam and it puts out a horizontal beam. We're going to turn off the vertical beam because we just need to take out have one nice level line over the entire site. The options for the ramps. Okay, we could take a ramp out of this doorway and we put a platform at the door. We would remove this planter and we would ramp this way to this wall, and we could come all the way down this boundary here. There's pluses and minuses for that. It takes up a lot of the front of the property and it's going to low ground, so the ramp will be longer, so the cost for the equipment will be greater. But it does tuck the ramp away to one side of the garden there, so it's not as obtrusive. Looking at over this side of the garden, which we'll come to later, you could put two platforms and then just ramp to higher ground, which shortens the ramp a lot. So you use a lot less equipment if you put the ramp at the top of the garden there. And finally, you can ramp to the bottom of the garden here, which is the lowest part of the block paved driveway. And that's probably going to produce the longest ramp because we're going to the lowest ground. So first up, we'll turn this around a little bit. And I'll just go and zero this at the door. We place this on the threshold. This just extends, so we take that to here. Okay, first height I take this step, which is minus 80 millimeters. The next height I take, which will be to calculate for the step unit. So for example, if we're going to put a platform here and then ramp to this way, then we'll have another platform and a ramp. Not everybody might want to take the ramped route to the property, so we can put a gate and a step unit here. Now I know that if I put a step unit on here, based on this height here, which is 220 millimeters, I know I need a single step for 220 millimeters because the maximum rise you can have per tread is around 150 mil to 170 mil is where you want to be. So this is 220, so I need to split that height into two 110 mil steps. I also know I need to be about 1.5 meters out because that's the platform of 1.2 meters plus the tread depth of 300 mil. So just to get this right, I measure 1.5 meters, which is there, and I take a height exactly there. Just over 230, 235, yeah. So we're just going to have two steps of about just over 115 mil for this step unit off this platform, this imaginary platform that's going to be here. Next up, I need to know how much ramp I can get in here. Now, I know I've got to put 1.2 meter turn platform here at the end, so I can measure straight from that wall to the edge of the door, which is 2.5 meters. I take off 1.2 meters at the end, that leaves me with 1.3 meters to the wall. We put a 1.2 meter platform at the door. We put a 1,000 wide ramp coming down here at 1.2 meters long. So this platform is already 200 mil off the wall because the platform is 1.2 meters. So we're already 200 mil off the wall. So when we start this platform, it is also 200 mil off the wall, but it's at 1.2 meters square. So instantly I lose 1.4 meters off this measurement here. Because the edge of the platform now, got 1200 there, and this is 200 beyond the 1200 platform there. So I know I'm going to be 1.4 meters out straight away. but there's two measurements to consider down the bottom of the driveway here. I know that at 4.9 meters, which is here, I have a 400mm height difference, and I also know that I can get into here 4.7 meters of ramp. I need 4.8 at this point, so I'm 10 millimeters out really, roughly on my measurement. I'm 10 millimeters out. So ideally though, I would probably put the ramp line in here. For this much of being incorrect over this much ramp is undetectable other than with a laser. You wouldn't feel it underfoot, you wouldn't feel it in a wheelchair. It's sort of the place to land the ramp because it's just a little bit back off the public footpath. If you need the ramp to be exactly right, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing to do, the ramp needs to land here, right on the boundary, but it puts the trombone-ended rails right on the boundary, puts everything right on the edge of the boundary. Personally, I would rather just sit a little bit back and just drop a couple of edges of platforms, a little bit of camber on the ramp, and you'll be fine landing the ramp here. Just set back in a little bit from just from the boundary. I think it's a nicer way to end the ramp on this property. So that's what I would do. And I know I can get gradient by just tipping the platforms just gently. I can get the exact gradient to this point here, which is 1 and 12 is what I'm aiming for. You couldn't put a 1 and 15 ramp down this side of the garden because you would be out over this path. It just won't fit. Because 15 times 4 meters is 6 meters of ramp, and we can't get 6 meters of ramp in down here. We can only get 4.8 to this point here. So we know we can only get a 1 and 12 ramp down this side of the garden. But it is a case of just backwards and forwards, finding the measurement and getting your phone out or your calculator out and working out how much ramp you can get in to any given point. And it doesn't matter how experienced you are as a surveyor, you'll still end up doing a little bit of this just to find the point where the ramp needs to land. And then you sometimes have to make an educated, or a sensible decision on where the ramp needs to land. So that's it for the ramp on this side, other than it's going to block the driveway. But again, we'll talk about that later. So we zero the staff again with a laser, simply because I've just moved it to one side for the camera. And this time we're going to measure straight down the driveway here to the boundary at the very bottom. Straight out the gate. I know this is a bad option because it cuts everything in half, but we're just going to do it anyway. And again, we'll show a drone of why it's a bad idea basically, but it's going to cut the bins off. It's going to cut access off to the socket and the hose and just cut everything straight in half, so the access to the whole site isn't very good. First up, we take a height again here. We already know this from taking a height this way, but there's an 80mm height difference between that step and here. There's a difficulty here because if we're going to ramp straight off a platform here, I can't put a gate onto the side of a ramp. You can only put the gate onto the side of a platform, so it instantly causes me a problem that I can't give access off either side of here. But again, I'll explain that later. So I'm going to go straight down to the bottom of the driveway here, which I know is 6 meters long in total. I'll turn this laser around. I'll take a height just here. This is straight in front of that doorway. I can get a ramp just tucked straight down to this point here. And I have a 400mm height difference. I know this is 6 meters long, and I can put a 1.2 meter platform at the door. So 1.2 meters off the 6 meters means I can get a 4.8 meter ramp in with a 400mm height difference. So straight away I can get a ramp right to this boundary here, but it's just, if you imagine, and again we'll show it on a drone, we've just cut this whole driveway straight in half with a bit of space on this side and a bit of space on that side and no access into it because I can't really put a good gate on either way. Just to clarify, if we put a platform at this door, 1.2 meters by 1.2 meters, and a ramp straight to the boundary, this platform is going to be half over this 800mm deep step and half over the driveway. So the only realistic way you could ever put a gate on this side would be to actually extend this bit of block pavement out. So you would have to sort of modify this step on either side or modify the entire step to be deeper. And that would allow you to open a gate and not be stepping halfway through this as you come off. Same on this side. So if you ran a ramp with handrails on down either side of here, whenever you open these gates, you wouldn't want to have a half fall off the side of this step straight away. So yes, you could extend the step out, but it'd be quite costly to do. Not the end of the world, but it's not really the ideal solution really. This ramp straight to the boundary from here doesn't really add up for me. Cutting gardens in half is not the route to take really. So we'll sort of rule this one out. We know the height of this again, 80 mil. And we're going to be looking to put a platform here and then another platform in front of it. And we're going to ramp straight along the front of this bay window here. Again, we've got all the measurements of everything here, and I know that I've got 4 meters to this wall. So I've got plenty of space to this wall. I turn the laser a little bit. And I'm just going to straight it out first, just get a rough idea. So 1, 2, 3. Got a 220mm height difference at about 2.83 meters from the property. And I know 220mm needs a 2.8 meter ramp. It's 220 times by 12, 2,640. Now, working in our ramp sizes, you wouldn't make something bespoke for that. So the nearest ramp to go for, which you always go for a ramp size just slightly up, will be a 2.8 meter ramp. So to this point, we need a 2.8 meter ramp, and I know from the doorway to this point here is about 2.8 meters. We haven't blocked the bins because you can still get the bins in and out. You'd probably have to move this bin maybe to the bottom corner if it's interfering, but really this is far enough off, I think, just to come off the ramp and actually miss that bin because the car move forward a little bit. We've got easily more than 1.2 meters of space off the end of the ramp. Yes, there's a little cross fall with the slope of the drive, but it's nothing dramatic. So really the ideal spot this way is to land the ramp here. This will be ideal for me. It's a nice small ramp, it's tucked in against the property. It's probably the ideal solution for this property, is to put the ramp to here. Over at the door there, we would have a platform and a second platform, then a gate and a step unit, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Okay, gates and step units. We talked about running a ramp this way, and that would have a 1.2 meter platform here. And then, say you took the ramp along and across, you didn't want everybody to use the ramp, and you wanted people to be able to come out of this doorway here, use a gate and step unit and walk to the bins over there. You would have a 1.2 meter platform running to here. I'll put a little mark on the ground to help me. And the end of the step would be here. So I need to take a height. So I'll turn this around. I need to take a height to the front of the step, which is 1.5. It's 1200 plus a 300mm step, which is 1.5 from the front of the property. And that gives me 240mm. So that means that splitting it with a single step, I'd have two 120mm rises for the ramp that goes this way. Now, for the ramp that goes across the front of the property, I'm putting a 2 meter platform, then I'm putting a 2 meter platform in total, but I'm putting a 1 meter platform, then another 1 meter platform in front of it, and then a step. So that means 1 meter, plus the 300mm step is 2.3 meters. Again, we've got a little mark on the ground, which is here. And that says 270mm. So 270mm, I would have 235mm steps, which again works, it's fine. As long as it's around anywhere between 100mm rise and 170mm rise per step, you're probably in the zone there, you're fine for your step height. So that works out quite well. So we'd have platform, gate here, and a step. So anybody that comes to the property directly, so the postman comes, or a delivery man, or just friends and family, all just can come straight in and straight in the door. Wheelchair user comes out and goes down the ramp in this direction. For me, this is the ideal ramp. It's just to tuck the ramp along the front of the property to there.